There is a specific kind of pre-fight content that only exists in the 48 hours before the biggest card in UFC history, and it is the content where people who made confident analytical picks start walking them back because of something they saw at the press conference, or in the embedded episode, or in a sparring clip, or, and this is the one that is genuinely hard to argue with, because of a man's body language while wearing a sparkly coat and screaming at a punching bag. This is that content. And buried inside the comedy and the meme sounds and the honest admission that a pick lasted exactly 12 hours before being abandoned, there are legitimate observations about this fight card that deserve to be extracted and examined seriously. Start with the Pereira reversal, because it is the most substantive takeback on the card, and the reasoning behind it is actually more defensible than the comedic framing suggests. The original pick was Gane, built on the analytical argument that Gane's movement, speed, and natural heavyweight size create problems that Pereira's relatively static style struggles to solve. That argument is real, and it has been the spine of the serious analytical case for Gane throughout the entire fight week. But here is what the analytical case misses, and it is the thing that fight week footage has been revealing in ways that the film study alone could not capture: the intangible dimension of who is locked in and who is not. Pereira at the press conference, at the weigh-ins, in the embedded footage, in the training clips, every piece of visual evidence from this fight week has shown a man who is operating at a different emotional frequency than any previous fight in his career. The scream at the punching bag is not performance. Pereira's scream has never been performance. It is the external expression of an internal state that has been building since the moment this fight was announced. He is fighting for something that no one in the history of his organization has ever accomplished. He is fighting for the third belt. He came from a tire shop in Brazil to a bar in Brazil to the UFC, and now he is walking out of the Oval Office on Sunday night in front of 1 billion viewers with a chance to permanently separate his name from every other name in the history of the sport. The investment level in this fight is not comparable to anything he has done before. And investment level matters. It matters in the gym. It matters in the camp. It matters in the way a fighter absorbs information during the week of the fight. And it matters in those early exchanges inside the cage when the body starts reporting back about whether the mind is fully present or not. Now look at Gane through the same lens. The body language concern is not manufactured. Multiple observers across multiple platforms, watching the same press conference footage and the same embedded clips, have arrived at the same conclusion independently. Gane does not look like a man who is fully locked into what is about to happen. He looks comfortable. He looks relaxed. He looks, in certain moments, like a man who is present at an event rather than a man who is the center of it. Whether that is confidence or disconnection is impossible to determine from the outside with certainty. But the contrast between his effect and Pereira's effect this week is visible, and it has registered across the community of people who watch fighters closely. The two versions of Gane that have been discussed throughout this entire fight week, the one who showed up ready to compete against Aspinall and the one who showed up already defeated against Jones, are distinguished primarily by which mental state Gane accessed on fight night. What fight week footage suggests about which version shows up on Sunday is not encouraging for Gane supporters. The resume argument is the most analytically substantive point that gets made inside what presents itself as a comedic reversal, and it deserves to be stated clearly. Alex Pereira has been fighting the best available competition at every weight class he has entered. The fighters people assumed were cans on his record, Sean Strickland, for example, turned out to not be cans at all. Strickland went on to win the middleweight title. The names Pereira has defeated at the highest levels of the sport include Adesanya, who is considered one of the greatest middleweight champions in UFC history. He has defended belts multiple times. He has finished elite fighters in championship rounds. He has been knocked out once, by a man who was the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world at the time, at a weight class where Pereira was cutting more than any human being should comfortably cut. That loss happened under conditions that do not apply to Sunday night. Cyril Gane has never been the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. His championship reign was interim. His title was won in the absence of the actual champion. That is not a diminishment of what he accomplished. Interim titles require defeating real opponents, and Gane has defeated real opponents. But there is a difference between a fighter who has been tested at the absolute summit of the sport and a fighter who has been in the vicinity of that summit without quite standing on it. When Alex Pereira walks into that cage on Sunday night, he is walking in as a man who has been to the summit twice. Gane is walking in as a man who has been close and has been stopped both times, once by Jones, once by the eye poke situation with Aspinall that prevented the fight from telling its full story. The championship pedigree differential is real, and it feeds into the investment differential and the body language differential in ways that create a compounding disadvantage for Gane. Now let's run through the full card predictions with the honesty this moment deserves, because the weigh-ins are done, the press conferences are over, and Sunday night is hours away. Diego Lopez vs. Steve Garcia opens the main card, and the honest assessment is that this fight is closer than the Lopez-heavy consensus suggests. Garcia's hands are verified. That is not an exaggeration. His striking accuracy, his aggression, his ability to create and finish opportunities on the feet are all legitimate tools that have produced 6 stoppages in 7 fights. The caliber of opposition concern is real. His one decision came against Calvin Kattar, who is meaningfully better than most of his other opponents, and the performance was less dominant than his previous work. Lopez has been training at Oklahoma State with some of the best wrestlers in the country. He has fought for a belt. He has been in there with Volkanovski twice and taken meaningful information from both experiences, even if the results did not go his way. If Lopez gets this to the ground, Garcia's path to victory narrows significantly. If Garcia keeps it standing and lands the shot he has been landing against everyone else on his streak, Lopez is in serious danger early. The pick is Lopez, but the honest version of that pick acknowledges that Garcia winning is not a surprise. It is a realistic outcome that the early stoppage record and striking credentials fully support. Bo Nickel over Kyle Dawkins is the least contested prediction on the card. Nickel's wrestling pedigree is elite. His physical strength is exceptional. His improvement across every phase of his game has been consistent, and the competition level has been increasing along with it. Dawkins had a good regional run and a nice return to the UFC, but he is walking into a matchup where the physical and technical differential is simply too large to overcome. Nickel gets it done. Chandler vs. Ruffy is the fight that deserves more respect in both directions than the simplistic takes have given it. Chandler is 40 years old with 5 losses in his last 6 fights, but 5 losses against future Hall of Famers in a division full of them is a different thing than 5 losses against the general population of the sport. His conditioning is elite. His wrestling base is real. His power is legitimate. His belief in himself has never wavered regardless of external evidence, and that psychological consistency is its own kind of weapon. Ruffy is longer, more dynamic, more athletically diverse, and brings finishing ability across multiple methods. The height and reach advantage is real. The spinning wheel kick is real. The flying knee is real. The conventional boxing is real. Chandler has to manage all of those threats simultaneously from a man who is younger and who has not yet experienced the accumulated wear of the career Chandler has had. Ruffy gets the win. Whether it is the knockout that his style predicts or a more grinding finish depends on which Chandler shows up, the one who comes in flat or the one who comes in believing this is still his moment. Hokit vs. Lewis is the one fight where the entertainment value of the outcome almost matters more than the analytical prediction. Lewis winning, the knockout king, the man who has more stoppages than anyone in UFC history, connecting on the biggest card in the sport's history on the south lawn of the White House, would be one of the great moments of the night. The problem is that Hokit is younger, more athletic, brings more output, and has the kind of pace that 41-year-old heavyweights historically struggle to manage. One clean shot from Lewis changes everything. The probability is that Hokit's youth and volume are the deciding factors before that clean shot arrives. Hokit gets the win. Lewis getting the knockout would be the better story. O'Malley vs. Zahabi is genuinely the hardest fight on the card to predict with confidence, and the honest version of that statement is that watching Zahabi's film does not make it dramatically easier. What the film shows is an unconventional striker with genuine grappling depth, a man who beats opponents by presenting problems they have not been trained to recognize and respond to. What the film of O'Malley shows is a former champion with elite boxing, exceptional reach, and a step-back right hand that has changed the trajectory of fights in single exchanges. The case for Zahabi lives in the grappling, specifically the wrestling depth he developed with John Danaher, which targets the documented weakness in O'Malley's game more directly than any striking approach could. The case for O'Malley lives in the striking quality differential and his ability to keep Zahabi on the outside, where the unconventional presentation of Zahabi's technique becomes less relevant than the power and precision advantage. O'Malley gets the pick, with the genuine acknowledgement that Zahabi winning is the kind of outcome that makes sense in retrospect, even if it is hard to project in advance. Pereira vs. Gane is where the reversal gets its full justification. Not because the analytical case for Gane is wrong, it is not wrong, it is real, but because the analytical case operates in the absence of the intangible evidence that Fight Week has provided, and that intangible evidence points in one direction. A locked-in, invested, historically motivated Pereira with elite finishing ability and championship pedigree against a Gane who has not looked like the version of himself that was competitive with Aspinall during any media appearance this week. The calf kick sets up the left hook. The left hook ends the night. The question has always been whether Gane's footwork can prevent the calf kick from landing with the required consistency. The answer, based on everything visible this week, is that Gane does not appear to be in the mental state required to execute the movement discipline that strategy demands for 5 rounds. Pereira by finish, middle rounds. Pereira vs. Gane is where every storyline of the entire card converges. The personal dimension, the divorce comments, the lost respect, the escalation at the Lincoln Memorial, adds motivational fuel to a fighter who was already operating at the highest level of his career. Gane showed where at the weigh-ins that Pereira did not show. Gaethje's stated plan, going forward, moving into Pereira's system, is the plan that Pereira has explicitly said he hopes Gaethje executes, because it is the plan that gives him everything he needs to find the finish in the first or second round. The experience differential between a 29-year-old champion at the peak of his physical prime and a 37-year-old warrior with years of accumulated damage runs in one direction. The speed differential, the precision differential, the youth differential, all of them favor the man who was wearing a crucifix at the weigh-in because he was already under the limit before stepping on the scale. And yet, Gaethje's chin is real. His forward pressure is real. The specific danger of a man who commits everything and holds nothing back, who has been knocked out cold over 30 times in training and has kept coming back, who has beaten better-than-expected opponents every time the analytics said he was done, that danger is real and it should not be dismissed by anyone projecting a clean Pereira performance. The upset scenario requires a specific moment. One exchange where Gaethje's timing finds the window that Eddie Alvarez described, in between Pereira's combinations, when the counter is available and Gaethje is brave enough to take it simultaneously. That moment exists. It is low probability. But Justin Gaethje has made a career of finding low probability moments and turning them into the highlight reel that the sport will be watching for decades. Pereira wins. The production value of the White House setup makes everything look cooler than any arena could. The walkout from the Oval Office is going to be the most viewed entrance in MMA history. And somewhere in the first 2 rounds, a 29-year-old champion with a personal grievance and a crucifix at the weigh-in is going to find the shot that ends Justin Gaethje's title bid in the most dramatic setting the sport has ever provided. Sunday night. The White House. It does not get bigger than this.